The newer your AI model, the more likely it is to confidently lie to you. And that's not a bug. It's baked into how we're building them. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why making AI smarter is actually making it hallucinate more, and what that means for you. Let me start with something that might sound wild. Hallucinations in AI aren't some random glitch that happens by accident. They're a direct consequence of how these models learn. When we train an AI like ChatGPT or Claude, we're not actually teaching it facts the way you'd memorize a history textbook. We're teaching it to predict the next word based on patterns in billions of words it's seen before. Think of it like this. Imagine I showed you 1,000,000 conversations, and I said, okay, learn the pattern. You'd start to notice that certain words tend to follow other words. If I say the capital of France is, you'd predict Paris, because you've seen that pattern so many times. But here's the catch. That model doesn't actually know anything. It's just really good at pattern matching. And when it encounters something it hasn't seen before, or something ambiguous, it doesn't say, I don't know. It just keeps predicting the next most likely word, even if that word is completely made up. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Over the last couple of years, we've been making these models bigger and training them on more data and for longer. And you'd think that would make them more accurate, right? More data equals more knowledge. But that's not what's happening. Researchers have found that as models get larger and more capable, hallucinations actually increase in certain ways. Why? Because bigger models are better at learning subtle patterns, including patterns that aren't real. They're better at sounding confident even when they're wrong. They're better at constructing plausible-sounding sentences that follow the statistical patterns they learned, even if those sentences describe things that don't exist. There's also something called the scaling problem. As we scale up training, models learn more edge cases, more obscure information, more nuances. But they also learn more correlations that are spurious, connections that seem real statistically but don't actually represent reality. A model might learn that whenever certain keywords appear together, a particular fact is likely to follow, even if that's just a coincidence in the training data. And then there's the incentive structure. We've been optimizing these models for one thing, sounding helpful and coherent. We use something called RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback. Basically, we get humans to rate outputs, and the model learns to maximize those ratings. But here's the problem. A confident-sounding wrong answer often gets rated higher than an honest, I'm not sure. It feels more helpful. It's more satisfying to read. So the model learns that hallucinating confidently is actually the path to higher ratings. Let me give you a concrete example. Claude or ChatGPT might tell you about a research paper that doesn't exist, with a real author's name and a plausible title and even a fake abstract. It will do this with absolute confidence. Why? Because in the training data, when humans ask for citations, they often get answers that follow that format. The model learned the pattern of how a citation should look, but not whether that citation is real. And it learned that being detailed and confident gets better feedback than saying, I can't find that paper. Here's another layer to this. The bigger and more capable the model, the more it's exposed to rare, weird, or even contradictory information in its training data. The internet has a lot of false information on it. Conspiracy theories, outdated facts, misinformation. A smaller model might not have learned much of this stuff. But a larger model has seen it all, and it's learned the statistical patterns of how false information is presented. So it can generate false information that sounds incredibly convincing because it's mimicking the structure of real information. Now, I want to be clear, companies are aware of this. OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, they're all working on ways to reduce hallucinations. They're experimenting with retrieval systems that let models look up facts before answering. They're adding uncertainty estimates. They're fine-tuning models to say, I don't know more often. But the fundamental problem is still there. You've got a machine that's optimized to predict the next word, and you're asking it to tell you the truth. Those are two different objectives. So what does this mean for you? Well, first, don't trust AI outputs on anything that matters without verification. That's not cynicism. That's just understanding how the tool works. A hallucination isn't a sign that the AI is broken. It's a sign that it's doing exactly what it was designed to do, predict plausible text, but that's not the same as being accurate. Second, the trend is that this problem gets worse as models get bigger, not better, at least in the near term. We might solve it eventually with better architectures or training methods. But right now, the cutting-edge models are also the most confident liars. And third, this is actually why context matters so much. When you use AI as a thinking partner or a brainstorming tool, you're using it for something it's genuinely good at, generating possibilities and exploring ideas. When you use it as a fact machine, you're fighting against its fundamental nature. The wild part is that we're still figuring this out as we go. We built these systems that are incredibly useful and also fundamentally unreliable in specific ways, and now we're trying to retrofit safety and accuracy onto them. It's like building a really fast car and then trying to add brakes. So here's the thing. If you want to actually understand what's happening with AI instead of just hearing hype and doom posting, subscribe. I break down one of these misconceptions every few days, and I'm not going to waste your time with corporate BS or unnecessary jargon. Just real talk about how this technology actually works.